Welcome back to Life Mastery Gym. My name is Peter Schwartz, and in this video, I'm gonna be sharing with you some NLP techniques that when you start to apply these techniques in a sales context, your sales are gonna start to go through the roof. Stay tuned. So whenever we're selling something or whenever somebody buys, people buy in order to meet their values. Values are core emotions inside the body that we want to feel. Or values are things that we don't want to feel. So anytime you've bought something, anytime one of your customers in the past either bought or didn't buy, it was always either to meet a positive value or to move away from a negative value. So in NLP, we learn how to discover what these core values are, these most desired states. And when you know what your customer's most desired states are, you can take those states and align them, actually associate them with your product or service. And I'm gonna share 2 ways that you can do that in this video. Before we do that, if you don't yet know how to elicit somebody's values, make sure you click the link below so that you can download the free training on how to discover and elicit your values. And then you can just use that process to discover what your customers' values are. Now, assuming that you've done that, assuming that you know how to elicit somebody's values or they've given them their values to you, we wanna take those values now, those core feelings that they desire most in the world, and we want to associate those feelings with your product or service. And there's 2 ways that I'm going to share with you how to do this. The first is linguistic, via language. We're going to talk about their value and your product or service. The second way is a little bit more advanced, a little bit more subtle, is a little bit more NLP ninja persuasion. So let's dive into them both, and I'll start with the first way. The first way, let's say you discover through the values elicitation that your customer's core states of being, the feeling that they desire to feel more than anything in the world is happiness, love, and freedom. We find out that those are the core states that your customer wants to feel. And you're selling a widget. So what you could do is when you're talking to your customer is you can begin to use linguistically their values and begin to associate that with their product or with your product or service. So, Mr. Customer, can you thinking about it now, imagine what it would be like when you're using this product or service, this widget. And as you think about that, do you notice just how happy it's gonna make you to have the freedom this is gonna provide for you? Essentially what you're doing here is you're just taking those core states, you're repeating them back to the customer in relation to your product or service. Very simple to do. The second technique is much more elegant and much, much more powerful. Because here, we're actually going to elicit those core desired states. And then we're gonna anchor those states. And we're going to associate those states to your product or service without having to mention them consciously. So, if I'm in front of your customer and your customer tells me that their core value is happiness, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have your customer go into that state, okay? And once I see that they are in a state of happiness, I'm going to set an anchor. I'm going to do something very specific, boom. So each and every time I get them to go into that state, I make the same motion, boom. And I've associated that movement with their core state of happiness. And then when it comes time to talk about the product or service, I don't have to talk about happiness. I don't have to tell them they're gonna feel good when they buy my product. I'm just going to go, boom. So they go into the state of happiness, then I start talking about my product or service, and they're automatically associating the desired feeling with my product or service without me having to tell them, won't this make you happy? A real life example. Let's say, for example, I'm a NLP fanatic, as you can tell, and so I buy trainings. Let's say you asked me, Peter, when you download the Values Elicitation training, you'll learn how to elicit values, but one of the ways is to ask, what would that do for you? So I tell you, oh man, when I go to this training, I'm gonna have so much fun and it's gonna give me so much freedom to be more impactful, make a bigger difference in people's lives. And then as the influencer, the person who is ethically influencing the other person to do what's in their best interest, I would ask them, I would say, okay, so when you go to that training and you get to have that fun and that freedom, what's that gonna feel like for you? And then when they go into the state, boom, you're gonna set that anchor and just mirror it back to them. So you're gonna get to go to that training, you're gonna get to have so much fun and experience freedom. And when you feel all that, it's gonna be wonderful, isn't it? Once you have that anchor, now, later on, when it's time to talk about your product or service, you know, Mr. Customer, what I'd like to do is show you my product or service. So fire off the good feeling, then look at my product, right? Fire off the good feeling and say, here's the contract. Fire off the good feeling and say, when you think about this in your future, how do you feel? I feel wonderful. And it really is that simple to do, and it's incredibly powerful because now your customer is automatically creating an unconscious positive association with the decision that you want them to make. This is subtle, but it is extremely powerful. And it is incumbent upon you when you start to use these techniques to grow in your level of consciousness, because you're going to become so much more influential. And I would invite you to consider when you do influence people, to do it from a place of win, win, win. And what that means is this a good decision for me? Is it a good decision for them? And does it help the community at large? And if you can start to think that way, become really ecological in your choices, and realize there's a ton of opportunity out there, people who really need your product or service, that when you can influence them in a really ethical and ecological way for everybody involved, not only is your income gonna increase, you're gonna create massive amounts of referrals, and frankly, the world just becomes a better place when we influence with integrity. Thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure you comment, hit the like, subscribe to get more life-changing videos like this one. Also, if you don't yet know how to elicit values, this is the foundation of this. And just in the process of eliciting values, people have to enter the state. And if they do that with you, they will be linking those states to you. They will be associating those states in your presence, which will build a deep rapport, which is crucial for sales too. So make sure you download the Values Elicitation training. That is the absolute cornerstone of all of this. And from there, you can start to work on your conversational elicitations, your conversational anchoring, and start to massively grow your influence. Make sure you download the training, check out my channel, which there should be a link down below as well, and comment with questions. I'd be happy to get back to you. Take care.